Hello everybody on YouTube, it is I, TitanOnFire, and we have another banger series from the DreamHack Winter Season Finals. It is Clem facing off against Maru, as we have Maru in the bottom left-hand corner of 2000 Atmospheres. And in the top right, of course, hailing from France and playing for Team Liquid, it is Clem. But we have a TVT here between two of the players that are probably considered the two best Terrans in the world at the current moment, Maru and Clem, which is always going to be very, very hyped up. And this is a match that's actually played. These players have played quite a bit because Maru and Clem are players who tend to get into the quarterfinals of most events that they qualify for. You'll usually see both of them make it to the quarterfinals, and so that's meant that in major tournaments we've actually had them face off quite a few times. However, it's actually usually been Maru that takes those. Clem, despite how good, right now, of course, coming off of a 3-2 win versus Trap, despite how good his TVZ still looks and his TVP is looking recently, especially against Korean Terrans, Clem does not have that good of a record. And in fact, in head-to-head matches versus Maru, going back to and this is only back in like 2020 or so. So like starting from last year, Maru is 6-1 versus Clem. And that's including the recent ones. I mean, we've seen in almost every recent event, Maru, especially in TVT, has looked like the best Terran in this matchup in the world. And so it's a tall order here for Clem. Facing up against Maru in these semifinals. Are you going to be able to do it? Well, I would say Clem's been looking very good recently. Clem has gotten a lot of great results, and so he's obviously been on top of his game, but still, it's Terran versus Terran, and this is Maru territory. When it's Terran versus Terran, I think right now Maru might be boasting, like, I would imagine it has to be close to a 70 or 80% win rate. Like, recently in this matchup, I didn't have a chance to look that up, but Maru has been insane in TVT. The last two times they've faced it has been sweeps. It has been 2-0s and it has been a 3-0. Or has been 2-0s, yeah, 2-0 and a 2-0. So, we'll see how Clem is able to do at the start of the series, and actually does get the better end of this Reaper trade. Maru gonna have to run away, does throw down the KDA charge to help his Reaper survive, but he's got to juke and jive to try and get on out of here. But really what TVT comes down to, especially as we get later on into the game and as we kind of get into the openings, it really does come down to these build orders and how these players open. And it's going to be these small differences that really make, or these small little differences that make the big difference in the game. Because when you're looking at the build orders and when you're looking at a player like Maru, who's so good at playing from behind, you can't really let him get ahead. As we already see, Maru actually gets a single SCV, is going to refocus now the Reaper on into the main, trying to see if he can get any more kills. Clem's having to put a lot of SCVs onto repairing, and Maru, he's just even going to be able to get on out, just barely with the Reaper, but Clem across the map is trying to push on in with his own units. Maru has gone up to 3 Reapers though with the 2 Hellions, so should be able to push this back. So far, it is pretty identical openings. Both players going for 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion. This is standard in TVT, but Maru's actually adding on a 4th and a 5th Reaper. Has the tech lab on the factory, but more Reapers coming out. This could actually get pretty dangerous. So usually, Clem has already lost a Reaper here, so it can be a bit dangerous. Does manage to snipe off a Hellion, but now his Reapers are low, and those are actually the main DPS here, is the Reapers. Sure, the Hellions do great against them, but if you're able to keep your Reapers alive, they have much more DPS than the Hellion, especially against units that are not armored. Hellions are great versus light units. As soon as they become armored, Reapers actually do a little bit better, even though they're not going to do that. Still not good. But now we have 5 Reapers here for Maru, and he's actually just going to try and dive straight on in. The first Hellion shot, though, gets 2, very low. In fact, kills 1. So Maru's going to have to back on up. Has a tank on the way already. I think actually completely skipped the Cyclone, which we did see Clem opt for. The Cyclone, if you do end up losing a few of those early units, allows you to get some map control back, especially early. So I like that coming out from Clem. Isn't even adding on a second with a Raven, but now Maru, well, he wants to try and turn on the pressure a little bit. Still has 4 Reapers alive, and this allows him a lot of utility here for a push with the tank. Usually, you'll only see, maybe the 3 Reapers, 2 Hellions if they're kept alive with this push, but it's a tank and 4 Marines. Looks like Maru is gonna try and get an elevator play going here. No, actually, he's just gonna opt straight for the natural. What is there in the natural, actually, for Clem? Oh, the Cyclone isn't there. The Raven just pops out. That means the tank is actually gonna siege up here for Maru. This is huge. Again, still has the Reapers alive, and that means that you can't really close the gap with the Cyclone or with the Marines. Just because those KD8 charges can be used, they can knock the units back, and then you have a whole nother world of trouble here for Clem, as he's just gonna take us so much damage. Clem already losing 3 workers. Oh, auto turret is going to go down. Marines, only one of them has fallen so far. 2 Reapers have gone down, but Maru is continuing to push this. Clem was just not ready for this attack, and now we're gonna start to see SCVs start to go down. As the Cyclone, decent focus fire, but the pickups from Maru, the control from Maru. A tank is finally out here for Clem. He should be able to siege us onto the high ground, but sieges it in range of the tank. Now Clem's gonna pull the trigger. 2 Cyclones going on in, but the tank is down. Maru's gonna turn it back around. Has a Cyclone joining in, is now gonna focus onto the Raven. The tank is down for Maru though, but has his own Raven joining in. Maru's gonna keep pushing. What? Oh, the auto turret, the focus fire with the auto turret, Maru. That is glorious. The command center is getting low. Clem is gonna have to repair. Both the Cyclones are down. Clem's Raven is extremely low, and Maru still has more Marines available. Clem should be able to finally stabilize with his tank coming out and a Banshee being produced. But Maru is just rallying across the map. He's got another tank. This is insane amounts of pressure coming out from Maru. And Clem right now is stuck in such a bad position, as behind this Maru's getting additional barracks. He's getting engineering base. Clem is just producing units, and oh my god, the auto turret gets the tank again. That's it, GG. Maru stomps game 1. That was a little bit under 7 minutes for that game 1, which I don't know, that without a cheese, like with just a straight up timing attack, that might be a world record, I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, in the top left hand corner, it is the man himself, Maru, the king of TBT. And in the bottom right, that was a bit of a schlacking right there. It's Clem. He's gonna have to try and find a way to fight back here onto Berlingrad. A bit more of it's a map that is a bit harder to push. Once you get onto 3 bases, luckily Berlingrad does have this lovely double high ground this high ground to either third from the natural, and it's a great spot for tanks. It means that you can really easily actually get a very nice 3 base setup. So hopefully this means that, you know, Clem, if he does manage to get by the early game, is able to, you know, stabilize. But that Maru, that last game, I'm still in shock at how clean that attack was. That's an attack that I've seen Maru do so many times against other Terrans. You know, in this matchup, he just kind of throws it out. You know, against a player like Cure, that's just an opening that he does. He never kills his opponent with that opening. I've almost never seen that opening kill his opponent, but in this game, I mean, the tank gets sieged up, has the additional Reapers added on, which is a little bit of a twist. Usually he just does it with the 3 Reapers, 2 Hellions. This time he added on the 2 additional Reapers, and it gave him a bit more ability to push in, as we saw, and try and trade against Clem's early units and actually cleared them out. And so that meant that Clem didn't have any scouting out on the map for when the medevac actually flew across. And I think that was just a small adjustment that Maru did with that build from the standard. And that did make a lot of difference, but also just the control. The auto turret. It got 2 Cyclones. The auto turret got 2 Cyclones. The Raven control from Maru. You know, just, that was such a well-handled push. And Clem, it's unfortunate because that's, you know, the early game isn't really where Clem shines. It's when it's, you know, in the army control and the splitting. And that's where Clem wants to get, is into that late game, that mid to late game, you know, where he's able to show that off. And you know, that's what you want to do. Hasn't been able to do it so far, though, as we do have a bit of a difference in the openings. This time, Clem is actually opting for the immediate reactor onto the barracks. This does allow you to get out 4 Reapers, as opposed to 3. It just takes a little bit longer. It delays your factory. It times it out, so I believe you're going to be getting 2 Reapers, or 4 Reapers and 2 Hellions. Or, as we see Maru going for here, a Widow Mine as his follow-up. And the Widow Mine, again, is just a bit more defensive than the Hellions. It doesn't really add that much to any poking around the map, but it can get rid of, you know, an early Banshee even if it comes across the map, or obviously it does stop your opponent from pushing, as we are going to be seeing, yep, a second Hellion there just a little bit later on the production tab coming out. So 4 Reaper, 2 Hellion for Clem. Again, it's just a bit of a variation on the standard opener. And then Maru, this is actually a very fun macro opener that Maru does, where it's the 3 Reaper and a Hellion, and then the Widowmine. And this is a trick I've seen him do against actually Bunny before, where he's going to hide the Widowmine underneath his Hellion. We'll see if Clem falls for it. I don't imagine it will massively take Clem by surprise here as he pokes in. He should notice with only a single Hellion that there has to be another unit built. We will see, though, as Hellions looking to go on in. Widowmine target fire should be seen, though, as the KD8 charges go out. And yeah, Clem should have an idea that that Widowmine is there. He's going to be trying to poke again. Has a few more units out early, so he can afford to be across the map like this. And you already see actually Clem adjusting here to game 1. Tank on the way immediately. No Cyclone, and it's actually Maru who's getting the early Cyclone and Raven, as opposed to the earlier tank, so then starts a tank up second. So Maru going for a very, very standard build here, and actually Clem, Clem's trying to run it back on Maru. It's a bit different than Maru's opening. Again, Maru opened with 3 Reapers and 2 Hellions, so I think this timing is actually slightly later for Clem. I think it's like, oh my god, the Widowmine! Oh! That was almost disastrous, but now that medevac's so low. And yeah, this push is coming across. I don't know if this feels a little bit later than when Maru hit his, just because the reactor came out earlier for Clem. But you have the tank. You have a Raven on the way for Clem. It isn't here yet. The auto turret, though, is available for Maru as alongside the Cyclone and the tank already out. Yeah, I feel like this timing is just, I feel like it's not as potent as Maru's was. Oh, and the medevac's gonna go down. That's massive. No more healing for all of the bio units that Clem has on the ground right now. And Maru's gonna have a second Raven out very, very shortly. Those auto turrets can be so, so useful. Maru looking for the unsiege. Oh, the interference matrix, the disable onto Clem's tank. Cyclones are gonna go forward here for Clem to try and get some damage done. The Raven is out of energy, but a second tank is gonna come on forward. Maru just completely wipes the floor with Clem's push. Says, this is how you defend it. If you want to try my own build against me, my own opener against me. And that looked easy. That looked so easy. I don't think Maru had an issue with that. And now Maru's gonna try and push this across the map, and of course he can. He has a tank advantage over Clem. Of course, you will have the defender's advantage with the tank popping out for Clem in time to be able to siege up. But there's so many more Marines. There's 2 Ravens out for Maru again. Just had the earlier Raven production because Clem committed a lot to that early tech. You know, the tank and then 2 Cyclones behind it. It costs a lot, and actually Clem's pulling the boys into this. The SCVs are coming out, but they're clumping around the auto turret. Oh, that aggro was handled beautifully by Maru. And now you're gonna have 7 SCVs fall for Clem, 8 go down in total. The Marines can try and refocus fire, but no, they're trying to get the Raven. Just can't quite with the repair. Clem loses 8 SCVs, he's down 10, and Maru just backs on up. And again, this early game from Maru is being handled so well. Maru already has 2 engineering bays on the way. We'll be using those for his +1/+1 upgrades, has the gas to do so. And then also has Stim, Viking production, and tanks. Clem's going up to 3 Ravens, which is a bit... 3 Ravens feels a bit greedy right now. So, usually how Raven production will work, again, both players getting out their 3rd bases, that's nothing different, but usually with the number of Ravens you go up to, 2 is standard. You can go up to 3 if you're looking to try and push across the map with a strong Raven tank push. The issue is, I feel like, that Clem is actually delaying his... No, it's 4 Ravens. Yeah, I was gonna say, Clem is actually delaying his stim pack by so much because he went up to 4 Ravens. So, 3, 2 is standard. A lot of players like to go up to 3. 4 is very, very greedy, and the only reason why it is because you're using so much gas, you're not gonna have your stim or your upgrades as fast as your opponent. Now, it's not gonna affect Clem too much here. His 1-1 has to start at the same time, but the stim pack timing is the big difference as Maru was looking for another opening here. Clem does manage to get back into position, but you're gonna have the auto turrets dropped on into this base. Look how many red hit point SCVs there are. Clem has to get away. 6-7 SCVs go down. Now Clem's looking to interference matrix on top of the tanks with the auto turrets being dropped. Clem, oh, but the auto turrets from Maru are just doing it just as much damage. All of Maru's tanks get cleaned up. Clem still has one remaining and the Marines. And Clem actually does a great job there, but now you can see the difference. The reason why it's so dangerous to go up to 4 Ravens, the Viking count for Maru just completely cleaves down that Raven count, gets rid of all of them, and now is going to be able to drop down this third. How many workers have gone down this game? It's 18 SCVs to none. Maru's pushing with a tank. Maru just has more stuff across the map. The first Vikings have only just now come out for Clem, and you already have Stimpak available for these Marines rallying across the map for Maru. And it's just these small little differences. And it feels like Maru, he's gonna force the lift up. Maru, he's up 21 workers. Make that 23. Clem's trying to siege, but he's too far forward. The stim comes down. Maru, 9 minutes. And he should be able to take game number 2. GG. This man's TVT is too good. 2-0. That is crazy. I think it was 653 in the first game. And then 57 in the next game. Maru. And this is not to say that Clem, I don't think Clem is playing a perfect series. I definitely think Clem has been making a few mistakes. But even with that, Clem's still not playing bad. You know, Clem in these games I think is making some very, very good decisions. It's just that Maru, he knows, I don't know how to put this, but Maru has this sense in TVT. He knows when to take a fight. He knows when he has enough to win. And it's honestly insane to watch, because there are situations where Maru, he might be even, there are even games where Maru's down 40 supply, you know, a base down, and then suddenly Maru takes a fight. You didn't even realize that there was an opening, but then once he takes it, you're like, oh yeah, well, actually he can fight that, and this is why. And he does it so convincingly every time, evens up the supply, and then suddenly he's up 2 bases, he's up 80 supply, and you're like, okay, Maru wins this game. And that's what happens so often in these TVTs. And it's not to, you know, put down Clem. You know, it's not to say, oh, well, Maru's just so much better in TVT that Clem can't win, because Clem can. In the past, admittedly a while ago, I think the last time Clem actually won a series against Maru was in 2020. It's just that Maru's TVT is so good. And I'm trying not to sound like a Maru fanboy, but it's hard when he's looked this convincing in 2 games and is already on match point in like 15 minutes. It's hard. But we're on to Hardwire, and so far, it's looking like pretty identical openings here from both these players. I think I want another shot at Clem's base, because I think that was a liftoff on the factory, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, okay. So Clem is actually mixing up again. So both these players, 3 different variations on their openings, 3 games in a row. This time for Maru, only went for the 2 Reapers, and this is an opening that, the 2 Reaper opening, it's actually pretty solid, because usually with it you'll have a Cyclone up in time to defend against early Hellions, and you still of course get the scouting information with 2 Reapers. In fact, actually Maru makes his way into the main here and might even be able to get a few SCV kills. That's 2 SCVs going down. There might even be a 3rd. Maru, you're not supposed to get this much damage with these Reapers, but I just guess Maru can. 4 SCVs. What? The Reaper will get chased down. Oh, that is so much value. Because that's a 2 Reaper opening. You're not going to brawl with a 2 Reaper opening. You're trying to get information on what your opponent is doing. Maru absolutely does that. Now, he did not see the concussive shell that has started up here. I think he did see the barracks with the tech lab, though, and that might be a giveaway, because what Clem is doing here is this is, I believe, usually going to be about 6 Hellions, 2 to 3 Marauders. Or 2 Marauders with concussive shell and a medevac going across the map, and your goal is actually to punish a Cyclone opening, because you can drop the Marauders onto a Cyclone. Now Clem's actually going a bit early though with the 4 Hellions, and the Reaper is just trying to poke around and see what there is. It is a 2 Cyclone opener this time from Maru. This is a bit safer again. The 2 Cyclones, they give you a bit more map control, a bit more ability to push against a timing attack that comes early. Of course, you want that tank out, but Maru doesn't think that's coming again. He saw the factory with the reactor, so he knows that there's not going to be a super early tank push or anything like that coming from Clem. Does he expect the concussive shell Marauders though? Here's the thing though, this is very risky for Clem. I mean, this is a time attack that can do a lot of damage, but there's already a tank and 2 Cyclones out for Maru, who hasn't missed a beat on this opening. We'll see. The Cyclones right now are positioned in the main, and this actually can help out Clem quite a bit. The Medevac's gonna go straight onto the main. The Cyclones are here, actually. Maru drops them away. The concussive shell, though, immediately gets the first shot off the hole. The Medevac's dead. Oh my god. The Cyclones, I mean, one's gonna go down. But oh my, that is such a massive amount of damage. Now the Hellions gonna try and dive on in, but they just do so little damage against the tank. They do force the unsiege, but they're not gonna dive onto the mineral line, and this is just a net loss for Clem. I mean, you kill 2 workers, but that doesn't really do anything. Maru's still up 2 workers, and that's gonna be evened out, you know, here with the worker production offset. But you just lose stuff. Yeah, I don't think that's really evened out the damage that Clem took early from the 2 Reapers making their way in. I mean, it's evened it out a little bit, but I don't feel like that was worth it. The investment, of course, of the gas for concussive shell, for the Marauders, which are so much more expensive than a Marine, 50 more minerals, 25 gas, especially when you're just still, you know, establishing your second base. You need to get more damage done than that. And now Maru's going to look for a counter push here across the map, and it's 3 tanks to 1. The Raven count is even, of course, and, you know, Clem still has the 4 Hellions, but that difference alone, you know, it's 2 tanks across the map, a third one being moved out. Clem does have a second that finished up and is now pushing himself into a decent position. I actually really like this from Clem. Is not going to get stuck in a contain with his tanks out like this. It doesn't look like Maru's going to pull the trigger just yet. Does have to be wary of these Hellions that are making their way back across the map, and they will be cut out by just a lone siege tank. Is going to see that they are trying to head across the map. Vikings will land, and the NG Bay wall off there with the gas. Or that's 2 additional barracks. Thought it was a 2 engineering base, but that wouldn't make sense. Maru does not have the gas yet to quite get his 1-1 upgrades and stim, but the timing so far in this game looking a lot better for Clem. Admittedly, even though the opening hasn't been the best for him, he's caught up perfectly fine, is now even on workers with Maru. And the timings are all working out just fine. The third CCs for both players finished at the same point. Stim has started at the same time for both players, so that's not gonna make the difference like it did in the last game with that final stim that Maru was able to do. Although, I mean, that wasn't the biggest difference, but overall for Clem, this is a much better game. And this is a much more solid position to try and then turn this into, hopefully, a fairly standard TVT, and we'll see. I mean, the big thing that we're looking at right now is the fact that Maru does have those additional tanks out, and actually does have an additional Viking. So just having, you know, 1 more of each tech unit here, then, you know, 1 more Viking, 1 more tank, that is pretty big. Actually, there we go. 2 more Vikings now. And Maru again has started up his +1/+1 sooner than Clem. As the interference matrix will go down, that tank should die. I don't think there's any way for it to survive. It is simply has to accept its fate there, but Maru's not going to commit on in, knows that there's additional tanks available for Clem. And we're seeing this little back and forth of where Maru is actually going to try and siege up, and now Maru has found an opening. Clem did not have his tanks here. This base is going to start to get sieged down, and actually Maru is sitting and he's sitting, what, 16 almost supply in the lead right now? There we go, 16 supply. This is actually massive. Oh my god, that command center got so low from the tank fire. Interference matrices go down, the tanks that Clem sieged forward. The Vikings are going down for Maru though, but the tanks are dead. Maru, again, he just finds this damage. 5 tanks to 2. The Vikings are the only thing saving Clem right now, but he loses 9 workers. And Maru just finds the opening. And it feels like just Clem was not ready for it. Here we go. Clem's trying to go on with the landed Vikings. I don't know if this is the right call. It looks like it is, though. The tanks are going to start to get cleaned up. The auto turret goes down. And it's going to be able to save at least one of the tanks with the landed Vikings from Maru as well. And now we're looking at a 27. Now, 30 supply deficit for Clem, who just lost so much army in that fight. And +1/+1's finishing up for Maru. Again, this is something that Maru does with his TVTs. He gets such early NG bays. His +1/+1 is going to be done with Stim. His Marines are going to be stronger, but it's not done quite yet. Has to be careful. His tank has already gone down, but he just Stims on top of the Clem's tank. Didn't have his Marines. pulled his Marines back for some reason. And again, any loss here for Clem is just, you can't sustain them because Maru's almost sitting up 40 supply. There's another exposed tank. Where are Clem's units? He just doesn't have a lot and they're just not in the right position. Maru's sieging the third again. And I mean, hey, this game went the longest of any of them, but Maru looks like he's gonna kill the third. And Clem is just contemplating that. GG, a 3-0 for Maru. Dominating performance.